Hey guys, this is the Man We're in Trouble podcast. I'm here with Ed, new friend Bill, not new friend. God damn it.
Oh
Old friend
man,
Bill, new to the
got
podcast.
downgraded.
Calm down, Ed. Calm down. And of course, my name is Mitch. Today, we're going to be continuing to discuss this topic that we have been discussing for the last few episodes now, going through major life changes and how we are dealing with it. Today, we're specifically going to be talking about career changes, career transitions. Billy has a story that he wants to discuss with us, and then we're going to kind of go from there. Billy, can you do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Name's Bill or Billy. You'll probably hear it said different times throughout the podcast. I've known Mitch and Ed's for a long time now. Met him first in college back in '09. And yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm in my mid 30s. I guess you call it mid 30s. Recently just left the Army after 12 years of active duty. I left the Army back in October of last year, but I'd definitely say I'm still in a transition period, and that has been a lot of some ups, but I think mostly downs. And that's like the thing I'm struggling with the most right now.
Yeah, Bill. And one thing that to add on to this, because we talked about it on the last recording when Matt, Mitch, and I were, in Mitch's case, it's never just one major life change. They always seem to cascade like multiple things. Like Mitch moved to Germany, was changing careers. His wife also had to make changes and sacrifices. He has a young kid, and on top of you transitioning out of the Army, you're also in the process of getting married. You're engaged to your fiancée, and you're also freshly in relative terms. And this is like your first experience where you're actually living with your partner.
Yeah, it is. So this is the longest relationship I've been in, and thinking what you just said, Ed, first you moved in, I'd say so. I guess technically I moved in to this home with her about 2 years ago. But when I first moved in, I then had to go on a 7-month military trip. So I literally moved in and 3 weeks later, like, was gone. Like, none of my stuff was even like unpacked. So
Yeah. Classic
yeah, on
Army.
paper it's 2 years, but in like
Cool.
reality, it's probably about maybe a year and a half. Yeah.
Year and a half. And she made it through the 7 months. She's the one then, right? She made it. She made her way. No,
Mitch, have you deployed before?
I have not. Technically, yes. Technically, I've deployed in the sense of I've been separated from my wife for 2 years out of the first 3 years of our relationship. I don't think most military would consider it.
It's okay. We're not going to stolen valor you, bro.
Yeah.
They weren't
I
combat
mean, for
deployments,
context,
I was
this was not a deployment for me. This was employment. We can go into.
We're not going to go patch measuring, but
it was not a combat deployment. I was
Yeah.
geo-bacheloring it for 2 out of the first 3 years of my
For the context
my
of our
relationship.
civilian listeners, it's time away from loved ones.
Yes, yeah.
And in my case,
That's the best way to put it.
I've done 9.5 years in the reserves. I was a pure reservist the whole time, except for my 2 years of training. And thank goodness, I never deployed. I never spent longer than 2, maybe 3 weeks away from the house. And when I did, I was single. So yeah, I think 2 weeks is the most I've been away from home.
So yeah, Billy has probably dealt with the most military like situations than either of us in reality, since you're an infantry guy. But again, that transition now, you are transitioning out, which I'm sure is a massive stress. You're already out. Sorry, you are already out. And that transition is still a massive stress. Why is that? Why do you feel like it's stressful?
How deep do we want to go in this with how long it is?
Let's go deep.
Well, let's go
how
chronologically.
deep I go with my therapist, Steve?
Let's go chronologically.
Yeah.
So
No.
when did you decide that the Army wasn't going to be a lifelong career? What thought did you have that said this This is no longer filling that void. This isn't putting the money in my bank account that I want, or this isn't where I envisioned my career going. What was the straw that broke the camel's back for you?
I guess I'll try to answer all those, and then feel free to interject or let me know if I'm going off course. So what decided it was no longer, or it wasn't going to be a career? So I guess just for the listeners, at least for the infantry, I'm not sure about for the other branches. It's probably the same, but for the infantry, like it's written that a good career, a good successful career is 20 years and you make lieutenant colonel. And you commanded a battalion. That is what the infantry branch designates as a successful career. I never cared for that. I joined the Army. My father was in the Army. I wanted to be just like him. He wasn't an officer, so that route was different. I honestly became an officer because they wanted me to go to college, and I got the scholarship, so I did it.
Same boat.
Yeah, I almost dropped out after freshman year.
Both of y'all did.
Remember me? Statistics class?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I almost dropped out after freshman year. It was actually David, and if you guys remember Musket, it was those two who talked me out of it. David was telling me, because I had the scholarship, that I should use it to its full potential, and then Musket, like, Jedi mind tricked me. I guess he was right.
I can see that.
I ended up, he told me, like, oh, you're like number 30 in the class, and you're really good, and I'll see you could be battalion commander one day. And I was like, oh no, I didn't know I was doing that. And I did end up becoming battalion commander, so I guess he was right. But yeah, I just wanted to serve because I thought it was my duty as an American citizen. I wanted to be like my father. Without going too deep into that, I think there was some childhood stuff. He was got a lot in my childhood because of the Army. So yeah, I never wanted it to be. I honestly was going to become an officer. Like I already had the whole plan in college. Become an officer, infantry officer, go to Ranger school, get all the badges, and then do my time, and then become a Green Beret. And then after do my team leader time, get out. In my head, that was like a 6 to 8 year career, and I would be done. What I would do after that, had no clue. I did not think that far ahead.
That's pretty normal. I feel like that's very normal with people going into the military.
Process. Yeah.
I definitely did not see when I was joining it around the same time frame as you're speaking of. I also had, like, you asked me, what are you going to do after the Army? And I would have looked at you weird thinking, like, after the Army? Is there an after the Army?
Yeah.
And that is a completely different version of me in 2009 from the me that I am. Same thought process.
So, Billy, you got in, commissioned in, didn't quite match your father's path initially. But what along the way, you're a Ranger tab, you had company command twice. You seem to have all of the things, traditional Army things going for you. So I'm curious when you decided to look outside of the military career and what kind of what flipped the switch for you? And what were you feeling when that happened?
So I guess I'll start off by saying I don't think there was anything outside the military that drew me away from it, right? And there wasn't like, hey, I want to be a CEO, or I want to work business, or I want to do this or that. It was nothing like that. So what I think it was is like my experience in the Army, which caused me to go, okay, I don't think this is the path for me anymore. What I said earlier about like the infantry branch says 20 years lieutenant colonel is successful, right? And the majority of my superiors during my time were like pushing for that. Battalion commanders, majors, and all that were telling you this is the things you need to do in order to promote and move up. For our listeners, in the Army as an officer, it's up or out. Like you have to promote or you get out.
Yeah.
Stalling per se.
It's very cookie cutter.
Yeah, to your point, Mitch. Yeah, I'd say the first time I ever thought about getting out was when I was a lieutenant, getting out as an officer. So I applied to Special Forces when it came time to my window because my father was Special Forces, so I want to be like him. And I did not get the invite to a selection, which was devastating. That was the entire reason why I joined the Army. And so that sucked. Luckily for me, one of the guys he served with was the CW5 at SWIC, so Special Warfare School, in charge of training everybody. So I was able to go to SWIC headquarters and speak to him. And he's a nice guy, and he explained it. He couldn't tell me like why I didn't get picked up because he doesn't deal with that. But to his knowledge, I think there were 800 candidates during my year group, and they only take 100.
Yeah.
100, okay. And then he took me around to go talk to the National Guard guys because if I can't do it active duty, there's 2 National Guard groups. So I talked to them, and they basically told me I just got to go reach out to different states. So I did, and Alabama actually would take me if I could get off of active duty. And then I also talked to an enlisted recruiter, and he said if I drop my commission, become a specialist, become an 11, they call it, he said it would be an 11 X-ray, not a Bravo, because I'm already like infantry qualified, that I could potentially go through selection that way. I emailed my branch manager, like, hey, how do I drop my commission? Because I just said, how do I drop my commission? And you just have to send a letter to the branch chief, and if they decide to let you go. But yeah, that's not going to happen for you.
If you choose certain careers in the Army, you owe your basic obligation and an additional service obligation, which I think we both took them. Mine ran concurrent with my normal one, so they just went side by side.
You have to do 8 years total as an officer. 4 years active, 4 years what they call the individual ready reserve, right? So you're not in the Army, but in the case of like war, they can pull you back in for those last 4 years. So what the ADSO did to me was it made it 7 and 1. So I had to do 7 years of active duty, 1 year on the reserves. I didn't know I had an ADSO. So I signed the paperwork in college, but the way it was explained to me was, hey, you might not get infantry, but if you sign this ADSO, it will guarantee you infantry, but it only kicks in if you needed it to kick in. At the time, ORBs, officer record briefs, it said I only was serving 4 years. It said my last day in the Army would be in 2017. So I was like, oh, I guess the ADSO never kicked in. I got infantry based off of my merit. So yeah, branch manager told me, hey, guess what? We're not letting you go. And when are you going to go to captain's career course? Because that was the next thing in my career. Yeah, so I just went to captain's career course, and in captain's career course, I don't know about your guys' experience, but for me, I went to maneuver. Guys, that's when you're thinking about company command, but then the future lieutenant colonel battalion command. The majority of my classmates, maybe if not all of them, already had like their 5, 10, 15-year plan, right? By this time, you're about 4 or 5 years in the Army, so they already planned out all the way. Okay, after this, I want to go do my company command time in this unit, then my S3 XO time in this unit, then battalion command this unit. My kids will be in school, blah, 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 blah. I was just trying to plan what I was going to do next week. And so for me, I felt like the rest of my career, because I had a plan. Okay, college, infantry officer, Green Beret. After that didn't happen, I felt like I was just coming up the forks in the road and going, I guess I'll go left or right. I don't know. And I would just take it.
Yeah.
And then you had all the power as an RI, and you were like, let me fuck with these assholes.
So, yeah, getting back on track to the original questions, I wanted to be a Green Beret. I shot my shot, it failed. So I was depressed. My last 1.5 to 2 years at Bragg was very bad. I went through a very dark time. I didn't talk to a lot of people. I even stopped talking to my family. for months. Still feel guilty about that today. Like I literally cut off all communication. It was very bad, and my health declined tremendously. And then I had some other, one of my former soldiers committed suicide. So it was an all-time bad time. So I was like, man, I don't know what to do in my life, and I was just an autopilot because it was like I owe the Army like 3 years. Yeah, so then I became an RI, and I found a purpose. I liked instructing. I liked teaching people, providing knowledge and experience to other people and seeing them use that to succeed. I would have done that job longer if I could, but you gotta go command somewhere. And I thought, okay, hey, I'm a captain now, and I thought about getting out still, but I was like, you know what? I'm a captain. What do captains do in the infantry? They command. So it's, you know what? Before I get out, I'm gonna become a commander. I saw that as my opportunity to lead, to provide experience, and just to help others succeed.
Did your command time live up to your expectations?
Yes and no.
How yes, and
It
then
never
how
did.
no?
So I would honestly say, going back to the original question, when was the time that broke the camel's back? Well, the straw, it was command. I worked with some of the best people I've ever worked with in command. Some of the best Americans I've ever worked with. I had a phenomenal first sergeants. I consider myself lucky. I had phenomenal first sergeants. I had great XOs. And then I had some good platoon leaders. I had some other guys who, needed more guidance, but none of them were like straight up bad, right? Some just needed more guidance and mentorship. But I had some phenomenal platoon sergeants, just amazing soldiers. I had some great squad leaders. And then, yeah, even junior enlisted. I had some phenomenal, just smart, talented people. Yeah, I know the stereotype of privates is they're dumb, but man, I had some smart people.
That's the crazy thing about the military, that two people in the exact same career track can have wildly different experiences because your experience is so highly predicated on the people that you have around you. Like, same unit can be, you can make it or break it with a really good or a really bad leader, or
Yeah.
subordinates.
Yeah. So I agree.
Was the thing that broke you, was it your leadership? Because it sounds like you had good subordinates, soldiers, but it sounds like maybe your leadership is what kind of.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
Was it other things? Was it just like the schedule?
If we were to boil it down to one word, yeah, I ultimately say leadership, but I'll give you the quick snapshots. I took command during COVID, right after the Vanessa Guillen incident. And then, that had a cascading effect on operations in the unit I was in. And yeah, just overall leadership. That was probably it, because going back to the rules thing, right? I'm all for rules, but sometimes rules are created and they had zero input from the people who have to execute it, right? You're being told to do something, and you're like, why? And then they tell you, it's like, that doesn't make sense. Or if you had asked us, we'll do it, but there's different ways. Yeah, and that's what I hated. I felt like some of my senior leaders forgot what it's like. So they're like, yeah, you got to dig this trench. And it's like, sir, do you know how long that's going to take in these conditions? And I think we can do it. Like, we can do it somewhere else, or we can do it better. Like,
Yeah.
It's pointless to dig this trench here because it doesn't help with the tactical scenario.
Yeah, sometimes your leadership forgets to allow commanders to command and to make the leadership decision on the ground.
That's a problem that's been plaguing it's that a lot of senior leaders and even leaders who would have been at our level when we got out, is they safeguard their ORB, which for the listeners, that's your military resume. And we always joke that a lot of dumb decisions get made for bullet points on your resume because bullet points make you look good. Like Bill explained, you have this cookie cutter career that you have to follow and you have to promote. And in order to promote, you got to do really good, because the higher up the ladder, the higher rungs you get to, the more selective it is. To pin first lieutenant, to pin captain, you just have to fog a mirror and breathe. But to start making it past the ranks, you actually have to start to show some merit. Leaders at higher levels will make decisions that they believe will make them look good on paper, even though the execution makes no sense. So somebody can tell Bill to build the dumbest trench in the dumbest piece of land that has absolutely no tactical value to the battlefield in any way, shape, or form. But this guy's going to turn around, open the computer, and type in, executed ground landscaping skills in order to shape the battlefield. And this guy's going to pin another star. While those of us at the ground level are all looking at each other. What the fuck was that for?
There was one specific incident. I was like,
Lord.
this is it. This is it. I'm getting out. There was one thing that happened to me in command where I said to myself, I'm done. And to me, I felt like it was a betrayal from a leader. So I'll just go over the quick cliff notes of it. It was when I was the HHC commander. So it's my second command. And the annual training guidance came out. And in it, right, so for the listeners, this is basically the blueprint that says your unit will do this for the year. This is the training that we're going to do for a year because we want to get to this end state. In it was that every soldier in the battalion would be able to do a 12-mile road march. I was like, okay. I was in headquarters, and typically you have the staff and not a lot of combat arms personnel on the staff. So I thought, okay, we have about 6 months because this was like, hey, by October, everybody will be able to do a 12-mile road march. I'm like, okay. And I think this was either May or June. So I was like, okay, we got about 4 months. None of these guys are going to do a 12-mile road. Like the scouts, the mortarmen, they're fine. But a lot of the staff, probably not. So I put it on the calendar building up to a 12-mile. Okay, on this day, we're going to do a 4-mile. This day, 6-mile, 8-mile, whatever. And I published it. It was on the calendar. It was briefed at training meetings. This was not a surprise. It was a Monday. And I think it was later in the afternoon. The S3 texts all the company commanders. Battalion commander wants to do commanders and first sergeant PT this Wednesday. And I responded back, okay, sir. Okay, this is last minute. Just want to let you know, I had scheduled Tuesday, Wednesday for headquarters to do a road march. I think it was a 6-mile. And how I scheduled it was on Tuesday, half of the company would do a road march and I would do it. And first sergeant would be overall in charge of support in case there's a medical emergency. And then on Wednesday, we'll switch. The other half of the company will do it. First sergeant will do the road march, and I will be on support. So I was like, hey, yeah, first sergeant and I are not going to be there this Wednesday. It's I briefed this plan already. This commander's PT is last minute. And I'm just letting you know, that's what's happening. And I got no response. Wednesday happens, and 7:30 when PT ends, my battalion commander texts me, and he's like, hey, you and first sergeant report to my office now. I was like, oh, okay. So first sergeant, he just finished the road march. I'm like, hey, man, I'm really sorry to do this to you, but we got to go see the battalion commander. So he's like, okay. And he just finished a 6-mile. He's sweaty, and we don't change. We just head there, and the battalion commander's not in his office. So we just stand outside his door for about 30, 45 minutes. And then he comes walking in, past us in the hallway into his office. He must have gone in the shop bag because he had a bag. And he puts his stuff down, then he goes into the S3's office. And I hear him go, hey, where's the S3 at? And someone's like, I don't know, sir. He's like, okay, hey, you come here. I need a witness. And then he tells us to come in, and we stand at attention at his desk. His witness was one of the captains who was about to take command. He was a staff officer. He was about to take command. And he tells the captain to go sit at the couch, in the back of the room. And then for me and first sergeant to stand at attention in front of his desk. He then proceeds to ask me what the hell was I thinking and who do I think I am. And do I realize how I made him look like because I wasn't present at PT this morning. And I tried to explain to them that I already had talked to the S3 about this. This was training, and this is to his intent because the annual training guidance is the battalion commander's plan for the unit. So I was like, sir, I am executing your intent by getting everyone able to do a road march. And this was brief. Like, this isn't, I decided to do this. Like, I briefed this plan for weeks. He just started berating me, started like slamming his fist in the desk, screaming at me, saying that I'm rogue, I'm indisciplined, because I had issues with his S3, the S3 in the unit before. And I did, in previous encounters, I did buck against the system. I won't lie. I was starting to question a lot of, in my opinion, dumb shit we were doing. I always thought I was being professional about it, but he said, you're always looking angry and at our training meetings and always you're always talking back. And I was like, in my mind is like, hey, like, I'm asking questions because I'm the most senior officer in this organization, not in career. He came in after me. Like, I've been in this battalion longer than he has. So I was like, I've just been here longer. And on Fort Hood, I've been here longer. So like when it came to like ranges or anything, like people would come up with something and then I'd ask a question. He always took that as I was like sniping somebody. I was like, no, I'm just asking a question. So yeah, he just started berating me saying, I'm indisciplined, I'm rogue. I think I can just do whatever the hell I want. And because of that, I am not fit for the Army. I'm not fit to command. And I'll never be a battalion commander like him. First sergeant's just standing there the whole time. And then he turns to first sergeant. He's like, first sergeant, what would you do in my position? And first sergeant's like, I'd first ask if there was a miscommunication or misunderstanding, because that's what it seemed like to me, sir. And then he just like immediately goes back to berating me again. Yeah, so then he's like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. You two are going to go report the XO, and you two are going to pull staff duty tonight. So I'm like, okay. And he's like, get out. Get the hell out of my office. So I'm like, yep, Roger. We both salute. We leave. And as I'm leaving, I hear him go to the cabin. Like, man, I'm so sorry you had to see that. And it made me think, like, why?
And for the listeners, staff duty is bitch work.
Yeah. So it made me think he pulled him that captain.
24 hours.
Remember, this is the captain who's about to take command, right? He's going to be one of his commanders. So I felt like he pulled him that guy, one, as a witness, I guess, in case I try to report him or something. But two is like a power move. He's going to show this guy who's going to become his commander what happens when you like go against him. So he's going to dick down current commander.
He brought him in, show him the tone of your, like, that battalion commander was, when I say jump, you don't tell me you're too busy to jump carrying out my intent. You stand there and ask, yes, sir, how high? That's what that BC wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And he was mad that you weren't his puppet.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And
It's
and
just
like
so
I said,
unprofessional to do that in front of a new. Anyways, go ahead.
yeah. And I know I wasn't a yes man, right? Because like even with the brigade commander, I was one of the oldest commanders in the brigade, right? Because I was there since 2020. This is 2022. People come and go. Like I was one of the oldest guys there. And yeah, I just wasn't a yes man. So I texted one of the other fellow commanders, like after I got out of the office, and like, hey, what happened at PT? Did like a general show up? Like he's so mad at me because I didn't show up. And honestly, no one noticed you weren't there till PT was over. And I was like, okay, so obviously it wasn't important. But yeah, so we
this
go.
is 2022, right? So at this point, your 8-year obligations is done, right? So you're in the Army because at this point, you either want to or it's still the thing you wanted to do. So this happens. What do you start? Do you submit your packet right then and there? What happens after that?
No, I'll finish this story real quick because I guess it'll add to my decision making, right? So this is 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like really angry and upset because I knew this guy from a previous unit. And I was actually happy when he took over because I'm like, I knew him from previous unit. We got well along. This will be great. But then, like I said, as times went on, like I started questioning orders and I was like, okay, we're doing a lot of dumb stuff for no reason. But I was also mad because of the way he like treated first sergeant. But this is my second first sergeant who literally took over a week ago. And then now he's getting dicked down. Just be mad at me. Don't fucking treat the first sergeant like that. But yeah, so I'm just like really angry all day. And then I think it was around 1600, 4 p.m. One of the fellow commanders who's going to replace me, right, as headquarters commander, he texts me. He's like, hey, man, just letting you know the boss wants you to go see him in his office, battalion commander. And he wants me to let you know that he loves you. And I was like, okay, he can have just texted me himself. Sure. I go in or I like text first sergeant. I'm like, hey, like, just FYI, you might get a summons as well. And he's like, yeah, no, he ran into me in the hallway. He already talked to me. He wanted to apologize. I'm assuming that's what he's going to do to you. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I go in and he's like, hey, Kate, come in here. I just want to say I'm sorry about what happened this morning. And I just wanted you to know that if it would have been a lot worse. So for context, I already had my next assignment. I was going to 5th SFAB. And there were rumors about the brigade commander at the time of how like toxic he was and all that. So basically he said, if I was my next future boss, it would have been worse. And to me, I took that as an abusive like boyfriend. You know, it's like, hey, honey, I'm so sorry. It would have been worse. I was like,
If you had been dating anybody else, it would have been worse.
exactly. I felt like it's like I should take that as like a consolation prize. I should be grateful. So then I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I was like, okay, hey, I guess since I'm here, I'll ask you the question. Today's hail and farewell. And First Sergeant and I are pulling staff duty. Like, you know, and First Sergeant and I, we were talking about it. We're like, hey, we'll just show up in our uniform and then leave. Because, you know, we got to go pull staff duty. So, hey, so just letting you know, like, First Sergeant and I are going to be in our uniform at hail and farewell. So for our listeners, that's when, like a social gathering, when you welcome new people and you say goodbye to people leaving. He's like, oh, no. He's like, no. You guys don't pull staff duty anymore. Come to the hail and farewell. Basically, all is for you. Okay. Cool. So going to the hail and farewell. And I didn't know this. I was getting farewelled. Because I was supposed to leave in a couple of months. And so he calls me up. And he puts his hand on my shoulder. I'm not going to lie. I went like, oh. And I think my buddies and the fellow commanders could see that because like I was like super uncomfortable. And then he starts talking about how great I am and how amazing leader I am and how much I've done for the unit. And then he's like, if you want to be battalion commander, I see you as battalion commander one day. And I was like, man,
Wow.
12 hours ago, you just screamed in my face and said, I will never be like you and I would never be a battalion commander. So yeah, I decided, no, that's it. I'm done. I quit. I can't do this because if I'm going to be like him and all the politics that I saw at that level, like I can't do it. I can't be a yes man. So I'm not against people moving up in rank or careers, right? There's got to be people, those senior levels. And I get it. The Army's a job still. And that's how people provide for their family. But I don't think you need to compromise to do that. I think you can still do that. So I said that was it. I quickly realized I did zero preparation. So luckily, like I said, I was already on assignment because my first ever platoon sergeant reached out to me and said, hey, have you ever heard of this unit? We need officers to come join. You should interview. And I interviewed, got the job. So I said, okay, while I'm in this next job, I'm going to plan my exit. So I did that next job for 3 years, and then I got out. Yeah, it was about the 8-9 year mark when I was a company commander in leadership. Ultimately, that made me decide I got to get out.
So on your last duty assignment, you said that you started making your final moves, but at the same time, you felt like you did not prepare. So what did you do to prepare for getting out, and how did that fall short of actually helping you that made you think that you didn't prepare enough?
So other than putting the packet, requesting it out, I did nothing. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like I fell short. So
Because you had certain expectations of what life would be like when you got out? for example, did you think it was going to be like, oh, I'll get out, I'll walk my cardstock resume over to the next guy and give him a firm handshake and I'll have a job? Or like, what was your view of life outside the Army at that point?
So when I made the decision to get out and I dropped my packet, the plan was, okay, I'll drop my packet, right? Get about a year, right? When you drop your packet, you date it for at least a year. That's enough time for the Army to say yes, no, and then for you to do all your things you need to do. So I was like, I'm gonna drop my packet, and then I am, looking at doing something federal, some type of federal agency. So I dropped my packet in May of 2024. At this time, I was actually overseas. And when I started like reaching out to the federal agencies, I learned I could not apply while overseas. You have to be bonus in order to apply, which makes sense, right? Because you have to go in for in-person interviews and things like that. So I was like, okay, I have to wait till October of 2024 now. And I was supposed to get out in June of 2025. So I thought, okay, that's still 8 months. That should be plenty of time. Well, I learned that the hiring process for federal can take a very long time, minimum of a year. I'm going through a process right now. It's been since November of 2024, going on
almost 2 years.
So that's what I'm saying. I guess hindsight's 2020. Like, I didn't have to go in that last rotation. I probably could have stayed back in the rear, be a staff officer. I could have then I applied because you can still apply to federal while being in the Army, right? It's just I had to be CONUS. But I was chasing the idea of being a team leader. I was chasing that feeling of being on the ground, getting my hands dirty, working with people, building a team, doing the missions like at the front.
Do the things the Army never gave you the opportunity because they always threw you in a leadership position.
Well, it was a leadership position, right? So this was my second time as a team leader. So I was in the SFAB and I was a team leader, right? That's what the officer does. You're the team leader
But a team leader as a captain is very different from a company command. Like you are with a small group of people doing a more specialized task, basically. And it's a lot more, I would say, fun.
More hands-on.
Sense to the listeners,
more hands-on, less clerical.
Yeah, there's a lot of admin work involved, but you're an officer, that's always there. But yeah, like you said, it's more hands-on on the quote-unquote the front line. So yeah, like I said, I literally moved in with my fiancée, and then 3 weeks later, I had to leave. And I'm sure I could have said, look, I'm getting out. Let me stay on staff. Maybe they would have made me go anyways because we were so short-manned. And I ended up going to Thailand, right? It's not a secret, but obviously I went there because my background. That's one of the reasons why they sent me there. So yeah, maybe they would have made me go anyways, but I always felt like maybe if I had argued hard enough, they would have let me stayed back. And then I
got a question about your rotation to Thailand. So you spent a couple months away from your new fiance. Obviously, you guys are still together. So, as a guy in the military with a successful relationship, what did you do in your time away to continue making things work? Like, how did you show her effort? How did you guys cope with the distance, basically?
I think we did our best. She's also in the military, so she understands, like, she's had to go on rotations herself. So I think she understands it, and then we did our best to keep routines. My mornings was her nights, so I text her when I wake up, like, hey, hope you had a great day. If I had time, maybe we'd quickly chat about how our day went. And then same thing, like on the weekends, my mornings and weekends, so I got up early anyways, like to work out because it was Thailand in the summer. It's ridiculously hot. So I quickly I chat with her. So my Saturday morning is like her Friday night. So I'm like, hey, how did the week go? How are you doing? How's Onyx, our dog at the time? How's everything going? So I think he's just try to do routines and check in when you can.
Yeah, that's fair. So you pull the trigger, you get out, You're still in the application process, but this is now, boom, your first day out of the Army. Your phone's not ringing out the ass. You don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to PT. You don't have some battalion commander yelling at you over dumb shit. How do you feel? Because I know as a reservist, it was still a big shift for me, because even when I'm living my civilian world 26 days out of the month, I still got the texts, all the online classes, the studying for flying my aircraft when I go to drill. I still open my closet and see my uniform. So I'm constantly still connected to what I was doing in the Army. That was your day-to-day life. So how was that shift to no longer being a soldier?
Rough. Extremely rough. It's still rough now. I think it's a little less rough. I think therapy is helping. I think maybe a little bit more time and distance away from it is helping, or at least I'm coming to understand it. But it was very rough. I think, like you said, I didn't have to wake up.
Why was it rough?
I didn't have to wake up early anymore, but I still did. I think, and I still do now. It's just so much of my life was just waking up early, and it just becomes normal. Even as a kid, because I was an Army brat, like I woke up early as a kid and had to like get myself and my brother ready for school. It just, so like that still happened. I even had the urge sometimes to like,
What
go ahead.
what caused it to be rough for that transition? Because I think everyone that I know in the military that gets out thinks the grass is always greener on the other side. I have heard stories similar to yours where it's like they get out and they realize that it's not always as rosy as some people probably make it out to be. So I'm curious as to like, why was it as rough for you? Is it because of you didn't think that you planned well enough, or was there other reasons as to why it was rough?
I think it's because I didn't plan well enough, and that's what's plaguing me now. Because right now I'm going through the application process. I'm unemployed still, right? Like
Yeah.
I just got a part-time job. But to Ed, you were saying it's the constant emails, the texts, the communication, all that. All of a sudden that stopped. Like that stopped
Yeah.
because I'm not in the unit anymore, so I don't get the signal chats anymore. So to sum it up, I felt like when I was in the Army, I was driving 100 miles per hour. And you just get used to that. When you drive fast on the highway, it just becomes slow. But then the day I got out, and even before I got out, even when I was on terminal leave for a month, like I started feeling it. I felt like I all of a sudden hit a brick wall. You go from 100 miles per hour
Yeah.
every day, that becomes normal. But as soon as you hit a brick wall and you go to 0 miles per hour, it's this massive shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to find a new direction. You have to find a new purpose, basically.
Yeah. And that's why I felt like I
Get
said I didn't plan well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone goes through this, but I felt like other people I've seen successful, like what I deem successful, while they were making subtle changes. Yes, you still got to get up early. Yes, you still have to shave. Yes, you still have to put on a uniform because you're still employed. But maybe they're slowly pulling themselves away from work projects. Maybe they're slowly giving up the responsibility to the new guys. Maybe they're slowly already planning their next career, already making connections, already going through the application process. I didn't do any of that. That's my fault. Like my unit was great. I have nothing but great things to say about my unit. They gave me every opportunity to get off the highway, and I didn't do it. And that's what I'm saying. I didn't do a good job. I feel guilty about it because it was just me. It's just me. But now I feel like my fiancée, she's involved now. She's suffering from it. I didn't do all that because it was just hard for me to let go. Even when I became a staff officer, I was no longer a team leader. I was a staff officer. I hate being a staff officer.
Yeah.
But like I said, that unit was great. Like everybody on staff understood that, hey, this sucks, but we all still got to do it because the guy on the ground in a foreign country somewhere needs you to do this and for mission success. So I had phenomenal leaders this last unit. When I think it's a cliche, everyone's like, oh, this unit's like a family. And I had that in my command job, right? It's like, no, this is not a family because you wouldn't treat family like this. But my last unit, I did feel like people actually cared about me. Like they did care about me more than just, okay, you're Major Sherwood, you do this. And they're just like, no, like, how are you as an actual person? So it was hard to, I felt guilty actually getting out. And I still do sometimes. I felt guilty. And that's why I wrestle thinking about going back in. But like, am I going back in because I'm scared of the civilian world? Am I going back in because arrogance, because I think I can make a difference? So it's rough because I wrestle with these conversations in my head like every day.
I think all those feelings are normal. You're definitely not the only one, I think, to feel those things. But I think you have an additional layer of, I would say, guilt, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but just based on 17 years of knowing you. Has it been 17? 16 years of knowing you.
Yeah.
You spent the majority of your life having this one path that you were wanting to get after. It's so difficult, I think, to have to shift from that one path that you were striving for. Because of that transition, because of that change, yeah, that's probably why you're feeling the way you are right now. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's just an understanding and a realization of why you're probably feeling like that is super important. But I think that's a normal thing. It's a normal feeling to have. So
there's
I don't
a
know if
lot
that
of
makes sense.
it does, I think. So there's obviously before therapy, like I was just struggling with on my own, but now with therapy, I could talk to somebody else about it and bounce ideas and thoughts like I am with you guys, which I'm really grateful for. Like I said, I felt guilty, and I also felt like a loser getting out of the army because I didn't accomplish what I joined the army to do, which is to be like my father, to be a Green Beret. I never accomplished that, right? I kept trying, even in command. It wasn't to be a Green Beret, but in command, I put in packets for other units. It didn't come to fruition. So part of me, like leaving, felt like I was leaving the army. I was leaving the army like I was quitting, right? Like I was a loser and was quitting. But the other part of me was like, I was in that unit and I got promoted to major. So my branch was like, okay, so when are you going to go to ILE? When are you going to go to the next school? So then you can become a 3 or an XO somewhere. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So the first time they asked is literally when I got back from my first rotation. And I was like, look, I literally just moved to Washington. And then I moved to Washington. And then 8 weeks later, I quote unquote deployed. I just got back. And now you want me to go to school? Like I got back in April and they're like, hey, there's a school assignment in June. I was like, yeah, no, I literally just got back. I don't want to go to ILE. I know I'm promotable, but pass. So I deferred it already. And then the second time, same thing. Like, hey, you want to go to school? I was like, yeah, I'm actually putting my packet in for this unit. And then that's when they told me, okay, hey.
Do you feel like there's some sunk cost fallacy in the way you feel in how you left the army?
Remind me. What do you mean by the sunk cost?
So like
It's not worth it anymore.
Is like sunk cost fallacies when you invested so much of your time, money, effort, whatever into something that's not working. And a lot of people have a hard time letting go of whatever that thing is, be a job, a relationship, a project, whatever, because they've already invested so much into it instead of just cutting their losses and trying to find something else for moving on. Do you feel like even though you are leaving because you're not getting that fulfillment, a lot of what's drawing you still to the army is because you've sunk so much of you literally your time's blood, sweat, and tears into it? Because even when I wanted to get out, there's still that apprehension of, God, I've done so much. Like I've already made it this far. If the thought of getting out has ever come up is, damn, I've made it this far. Maybe a little bit more. It's almost like I haven't won yet. Let me put one more coin in the slot machine and maybe it won't absolutely fucking disappoint me. And now you're deploying.
I'd say yes and no. So yes, right now. And I'd say that because I've been applying to jobs and being rejected from them. And even jobs that are like a basic entry, right? Sales associate at like GNC or barista at Starbucks or whatever. And I can't get a job. I can't, or at least I can't at least get an interview. And yeah, that sucks because damn, I did 12 years in the Army. I was a major and I can't even get a job like that. So yeah, that makes me think back of, man, should I just go back in because it's the only thing I can do right? But when I was leaving, I never really thought about that. A lot of people I think did because they're like, hey, you're at 12 years. Why not stay for 8 more? Why not hit 20 in retirement?
Yeah. It's a
I always
thought a
thought-
lot of people have over the 10-year mark.
Yeah, I always thought like one, I barely made major. Like, I don't think I'll make lieutenant colonel or battalion command. I barely made major. So I was like, and two, I didn't care about it. And I made a promise to myself when I commissioned that I would never stay in it just for money. Like I said, I got nothing against people who the Army for money. It's a job. But I wouldn't stay in it if my heart wasn't 100%. I don't even know why I made this promise to myself, but it made sense. Like, it makes sense now because I have seen, and I'm sure like, you guys have seen it too, right? You have seen those officers or even enlisted, some command sergeant majors who are just so jaded, so bitter.
Yeah.
Or they don't care, right? They're just so lazy. But it's like you are in a position of power. Even just by your rank alone, you have so much power and authority, and you can change the trajectory of someone's career and life with what you have.
I understand that perspective. And I think that if your heart is not in it and you don't want to be there, it makes the most sense for you to get out. Because otherwise, you're going to continue being, I think you're going to go down that like black hole of depression of being in a job that you don't like at all. Not saying that they're always the best officers, but the ones that typically do want to be there are arguably, they're good officers. I wouldn't say they're the best, they're not the worst, but I'd say they're good officers. They at least, they want to be there. They got to deal with the bullshit. And so the ones that want to be there, at least they understand the BS. But so it makes sense. Like if your heart's not in it, that's also okay too. I think that's completely fine. And you've acknowledged that you don't want to be in there. And even though it's scary to change your whole life, basically, I think that is an important step to growth for you as an individual and to transition away to eventually just be better. You feel better in the long term. If that makes sense.
Oh, it does.
know
And
if that
yeah,
makes sense.
guys who stay in, I'm not saying they're shitty officers, right? Like my last unit, there was a lot of great officers who got battalion command. And I was like, yeah, that battalion's getting a phenomenal officer. Like I'm sure they're going to do tremendous because this person, they give a shit and they're good, they're smart, they're a good person. And like we were going, like my last 2 years at Bragg were depressing, bad. But then as an RI, I had fun again in the Army, right? One of the best jobs I ever had. Company command was rough. Like I said, I had great moments. I served with some great people, but it was a rough 2 years for me. And then my last unit, man, some of the best time I ever had. I still talk to my first team. We still talk on our group chat together.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Just some of the greatest Americans I ever served with. And then even on staff, like I said, I hate staff work, but I had a great time because I felt like people cared and they cared about the mission and all that. I guess I was just scared of, like Ed, you said, like the slot machine. What's my next unit going to be like after ILE? Like,
Yeah.
man, like if the Army said, hey man, after ILE, you can choose which unit you go to, I would have stayed in. I would have been like, okay, cool. Because I'm going to choose a unit that I feel like is going to be great. I was
Never
like,
like
man,
that.
I'm so scared of getting stuck back into my command unit again. I was like,
Right.
no.
So
Yeah. No, that's fair.
you go back in time and you're standing in front of Bill with his separation packet in hand. getting ready to get out, what words of advice do you give yourself?
I'd say sit down and plan it out and have multiple plans. And I say that because, so originally, like I said, June 2025 is when I was supposed to get out. That was coming up real fast. So this is probably, I think, January, February of 2025. And I realized, one, the federal application was taking a long time, right? New administration, hiring freeze, government shutdowns. A lot of that put a pause on federal hiring. I started getting nervous, and I actually requested to the Army to push my final date to the right, and I moved it to October of 2025. I bought 3 months. And I still think that was, like I said, I would tell myself, like, hey, I know it sucks. This is a great unit, great people, but you got to let go. You have to, don't just become lazy and throw all your projects, your work, like shrug your work, like you're still employed, you're still working, but start giving the responsibility to someone else. Stop volunteering. Like I was volunteering to go overseas again. I did short trips, like 1 week, 2 week trips, but I still volunteered. Stop.
It's not,
Yeah, like
it sounds like there comes a point where you to look at yourself and learn the difference between giving, it's not giving up, it's knowing when to stop or knowing when to just know that something's not working. That you just,
Yeah.
It's something that at one point was the best thing for you. With time, it can change. We all can change. I am now the me that left the Army is a completely different me from the version that signed that paperwork on my first year ROTC. So yeah, you just, sometimes you just got to learn
a good lesson.
when to call it quits. And that's not giving up.
I still have a lot of guilt about it.
Yeah.
Like you said, my trip to Thailand. So I was gone for 7 months, and it was during that time, Onyx, our dog, his health declined rapidly. And shortly after I got back in October, he passed away in November. And I always thought maybe I should have been home, right? Because my fiancée was in the Army. She was super busy because she was in command at the time. So she was super busy. I was like, man, I could have stayed home. She had to do command, right? Because it's for her career. I didn't have to go.
Yeah.
And I could have been the one taking care of Onyx. I could have been the one taking Jim to the vet. Maybe he would have lived longer. He would have, but I think I just couldn't let go of the Army. And because of that, my family paid the price.
Yeah, no, that's hard. But I feel like that's a lesson that you've learned now. And it's something that we can take away, and it's something we can, hopefully our listeners will be able to take away the lesson learned from your situation. So it's like knowing when to quit or end something, whether it be career, relationship. But I think that's something that we can all learn from. Billy, thank you for your story. I think we just scratched the surface on this though, but I think we'll take that next step for the next episode of like building it out from there with, hey, all right, now that we know when to quit, all right, what's the next step? And there's a whole bunch of other different ideas that I think we can expand upon. But again, thank you for guest starring. Appreciate you being here, man. It's nice talking to you again. Any final closing words, and then we'll end it there.
I'd just say first, I appreciate coming on and talking. And then I guess, like you said, there's a lot of lessons learned that we can talk about in another podcast, because I feel like I learned a lot about transitioning. But I guess just to leave the listeners with those things, if you're going through a major life change, reach out to somebody. I've done a terrible job because I know you guys are always available, and I've just done a terrible job of reaching out.
That most guys do. That's something that we all can be better about.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't think anybody has the exact same experience, but close enough, or at least somebody would listen to you, or at least sometimes it just feels good to talk things out loud. At least that's what I've found. To the audience listening, like, if you're going through a rough time, like, just reach out to somebody. may not help the situation. Like it may not
Yeah.
change anything, but I don't know. I felt like maybe it at least help you mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, there's value in getting it out of
Good
your
to-
chest.
good- Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, let's end it right there. Hey, thanks, guys. Subscribe, follow, and we'll see y'all next time. This Man We're in Trouble podcast.
Bye.